we're going to go ahead and take a look at solving percent problems, which is a common issue for many students, solving problems that involve percents and word problems. And since the percent problems can be expressed as fractions using the denominator of 100, percent problems can be broken up into situations where we're looking for three key pieces of information: the percent and the values in the relationship that we're looking for, the ratio that we're looking for. And we use proportions. One way is to use proportions, right, to solve it. And so we outline here three approaches that are related to this type of thinking. And the most common approaches, proportions and equations, right, are used, but we have some other ways to look at that. One way is through a grid approach. And so for thinking about, since percent means out of 100, we can visualize, right, the 100 times 100 grid. Car was purchased for $13,000 with a 20% down. And so the 100 pieces is your 100% is your 13,000. And then you take 20% of that. And so you can see, if you shade 20 out of the 100 squares, then you can see the solution can be found by reasoning that since 100 squares represents 13,000, one square represents 130. So 20 squares is equal to 2,600, right? 13,000 out of 100, there it is. So it's 130 per square, and that's a unique way of kind of solving that problem. One square equals 130, and we're looking for 20 squares. So that's one way to think about it. Another way is through the proportion approach, and that is by kind of looking at it. I like to draw like a rectangle to represent 100%. 100% is 13,000. Car was purchased for 13,000. 20% down. How much was the down payment? And so then you're looking for that value associated with 20%. And you kind of can draw that out. And then what you're looking for, you write a proportion. X over 13,000 is the same as 20 over 100. And then you cross multiply as we've done before. And then you end up getting an answer of 2,600 also. And so that's another way of thinking about that problem here. As you look at that scenario again, and we could have also said, if you want to look at, we could have said 13,000 over x is equal to, some people feel they just kind of see that over that equals that over that, and so then again you end up with 26,000 equals 100x, x equals 2,600. So that's kind of the proportional thinking way. First is thinking more specifically. Some students memorize these equations that come up. Something percent of n is x. What percent of x is a, right? What percent of n is a. And so we have these scenarios of where you're looking for, you have this missing value. What x is the unknown. You know the percent of something is x. The percent of what is a. Right, you're given and you're looking for those missing values. And so you can see those approaches on this one problem here. These three problems here. You'll see the multiple approaches that I try to represent here. This is the one that we've done already. Part A was already done for us, so we know the answer is 2,600. But again, multiple ways to think about it. You have the percent, you have the whole amount, and you're looking for some x. That's the equation way to think about it. B, 90% of seniors are going to trip. That's 162. So 90% of something is 162. So you end up with this equation here. You can also then say 90%, 90 out of 100 equals 162 out of what? Right, we're looking for the whole amount. And so you have that proportion approach. Then you can then solve by cross multiplying. You end up with, on part B, you get 90x is equal to 16200. And then you could go ahead and solve that problem there. And so you get x is 180. So that's another way to think about it there. And then over here, part C, Susan scored 48 out of 60, so you can basically say 40 out of 60 is how much out of 100%, right? Out of the whole amount, what percent out of the 100%? And that's kind of what we have here, setting up the this proportion approach. 60 is 100, 48 is what percent, and so you can write it. You could have, again, I could have said 60 over 48 equals 100 out of x, and then solved the same answer, and you would get it. Another way is what percent of 60 is 48, because we know that. You got 48 out of 60, what percent does she get right? And then you have that problem to solve. And in this case, though, you end up with x is equal to, let me finish that, x is equal to 80. And so you have that. So those are multiple ways to solve proportion.